This is Charlie.
This is JR.
Host of Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR. Broadcasting live each week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. from Fishbowl Studios.
Log on to hear us speaking the facts on current events, family, and finances.
So be sure to log on each week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. to catch Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR.
Tune in.
I'm in.
What's up, y'all? What's up? We are back. This is Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR, and I know where I'm at today.
Right.
But yeah, this is Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR, and I am JR. Of course, my lovely daughter and co-host is over there on the right. What's up, Charlie?
Hey, Dad.
So, so how's the day?
Today has been awesome.
It's been awesome.
Yes. We had a little rain.
Had a little rain. That's
Yes.
right.
How's your day?
I'm still here. So
How was yesterday?
Oh, yesterday was all good. We'll delve into that
Okay.
momentarily. But yeah, yesterday
Okay.
was all good. It might have been too good. I was tired today, so
I know Kim was.
we will go ahead and get the housekeeping out of the way real quick. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. I'm gonna go ahead and acknowledge our alter egos, the Fly Guy and the Fly Girls. I am, of course, don't call it a comeback because I've been fly.
That's right.
We got Fly Money over there on the right.
That's right. Hey, y'all.
And we got our producer, Kim, in the back, a.k.a. This Shit's Fly. What's up, Kim? Hey. We got Taylor over there on the knobs and faders. What's going on, Taylor?
Hey.
You
got a full house.
That's right. We got a full house. We're going to go ahead and get the other little bit of the housekeeping out of the way. Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR is brought to you by Kiss Wealth Now.
Yes.
Taking care of all, not some, not half, but all of your residential and commercial real estate needs.
That's
and
right.
to tell them how to find Kiss Wealth.
Kiss
Now.
Wealth Now. So you can find Kiss Wealth Now on all social media platforms under Kiss Wealth Now all together. And then, of course, you can reach out to me. My number 214-738-4913. If you have any questions about how you can create generational wealth. And I wanted to share a fun fact. 1 in 5 people who purchase a home that utilize FHA have collections. 1 in 5.
Oh, yeah?
So that means that there's a lot of people out there who are probably, thinking that they can't buy a home because they have collections. And another figure that's pretty, wow, okay, between 6 to 8% of people are evicted every year. And evictions turn into collections.
Right.
So how many people are not trying to purchase because they have a collection that could be an eviction, and it does not stop them from buying a home. So
Exactly.
Just you have questions, reach out to me.
There you go. And give them that number one more time. It's 214-738-4913. And on the web at kisswealthnowalltogether.com.
That's right. Charlemagne Armstrong.
Yes, that's right. And pretty soon we're going to get the name that I borrowed and stole from her, but we're going to get
Kiss Health Now.
Up and running, because
That's
without your health, what good is your wealth?
That's right.
You got
to have both.
You got to have both. So it is another Wednesday evening, and we are glad to be here. And we have a very special guest the house, and she is an educator and an author, and she has done a couple of children's books. And so let me introduce Maya Biondo. What's going on, Maya?
Hi.
Myra. I did it again, didn't I? I did it again. I'm sorry.
Myra
I kept saying
Biondo.
Maya, because when I first met you, and I thought I heard you say Maya, and it stuck in my head. Her name is Myra, M-Y-R-A. There we go.
And you did turn a year older, so
And I did.
Kim tried to make it 10.
Yeah. Kim tried to turn me into 78 years old. I'm like, man, see, that ain't even cool. You trying to put me out to pasture.
Up your game.
Trying to up my game, huh? So does that mean, Kim? Does that mean that 78-year-olds have serious game? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I have to accept that for now. But yeah, Myra. Now that I said your name right, how are you doing?
I am doing good. How about you?
You know, like I said, above ground. So it's a good day.
Wonderful.
You know. So, Charlie, you have any immediate questions that you want to ask Myra? Now that I'm saying her name correctly.
That's the same thing. So I think that, just from the times that I've met you, I love your spirit, love your smile.
you.
And so I could see how you would write that children's book because your spirit is very soft.
Yes.
And so did you create or write these books from, maybe experiences from your childhood, or were you just looking solely at creating something, a different vision for a child?
Yes, well, that's a very good question. My children's book, now that's being published, I thought about my childhood, and I teach first grade. In first grade, a lot of children lose what?
Their interest.
That not only their interest, but I would say their teeth.
Okay, yeah.
So I have a little chart in my classroom, and it goes by the month of who lost their tooth. And boy, do they come to me.
I love
Tell
it.
me they lost a tooth, and I write their name on the chart. And you'd be surprised on how many kids lose a tooth
Right.
in 1 year at that age. I'm like, I can't believe it. I didn't even have no more room on my chart.
For the babies. Okay,
Yes,
love it. And then what happens when you turn when you
So
get
5 or
older, you
6.
start losing them too.
I was gonna say when you get older, they start falling out again.
So I wrote a story centered around that.
Okay.
And my friend, she read it, and she was like, she loved it.
Right.
And I said, well, let me copyright it. And I put it into the Library of Congress. And I got so many phone calls from
Right.
different publishing companies that wanted to publish my children's book.
Oh, excellent.
And I went with one, so it's actually being published now.
Oh, excellent.
Then it led me to instill writing in my children, my students, and we ended up self-publishing with student publishing, and these are the kids' authentic writing as well as their authentic drawings.
Okay.
And I said, listen, it ended up turning into a fundraiser for the school. So as the students' parents bought the book, their family, friends, and loved ones bought it, the school ended up getting a check. And so now the
Did you get a
principal...
raise?
No.
I mean,
So now the
and you
principal...
raising money for the school.
Right,
You be like, look,
yes, you would think.
Was it cut me in or cut it out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But we read to write and write to read. And I wanted to, have a positive impact when it comes to reading and writing with our children.
Right.
A lot of times kids at that age, they tattle. I'm like, don't tell me, write it down. Then you'd be surprised. It would keep them busy writing. and I said, oh, you missed something. Nah, something right there don't sound right. Go back and write it again. They're like, oh. And then they go back and they wite it.
So
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
you
look, that would work for some adults. You would never hear about a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
stuff.
they would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotta
we all
write
forget.
I gotta write about it. Yeah.
So does that's a pretty interesting interesting ideology there. So so when you tell them to write it down, do you get less complaints because some of them say I don't feel like writing it down, and then they don't complain, or do they go ahead and write it down?
Someone be so happy to tell me.
See, yeah,
So I have a book. I have a box on my desk like that, and they can just stick it in the box. And you'd be surprised. It goes on and on and on, and they tattle on each other. And I say, well, at the end of it, I read it, and I say, did you all resolve it? Yeah, we worked it out. I said, good, okay.
Yeah, they probably was arguing while they writing a note. I'm about to write Myra and
tell
tell her.
teacher.
that-
I'm gonna
That's
tell
right.
teacher what you
I'm
said.
gonna tell on you on this piece of paper.
Yes.
So what made you want to become an educator originally?
I started off in daycare. I was getting off the bus. I'm originally from Chicago.
Uh-oh,
And
my
I had
coworker would love that. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
introduce you to him.
And I had a kid in college, and he went to college with me all 4 years. I did not send him home. I did not send him away. He went to school with me. And one day I was getting off the bus, and I was walking home, and I passed by a daycare. And this daycare had children from around the world. And I was like, wow. And I said, I'm going to put my son in this daycare. And then what happens when you're a college student and you're working? Well, you don't have enough money to pay for daycare. So the daycare owner said, well, you're going to have to work some hours for me. Do you have any hours in school for education? I was like, yeah, I'm in college. She was like, no, not that type of education, education for teachers. I'm like, no, but I can get some. So I noticed that as the day went by, as days went by, a lot of the daycare teachers were sending all of the disruptive students to me, and they would somehow end up being good for me. And so I said, you know what, I'm gonna go to school, and I'm gonna make money for real. And then, because you know back then you were making minimum wage, and so when I graduated, and I said, you know, let me start teaching, and I started teaching.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
So, and just kind of talk about how important it is to be educated, because that's one of the things that Charlie talks about on the podcast all the time is reading. You know, and just how important it is to read, to develop, you know, oneself, to broaden oneself. You know, so what about the education experience for you? How has it enriched your life?
Education, you know, where the teachers are the profession that make every professional possible. I say that to say that reading is, you walk outside, you're reading.
Yeah.
You know, anywhere you walk, you're reading a sign or a billboard or a pamphlet. You're reading a wall. In college, for me, it was reading the walls. You don't know what's going on unless you read the walls, because there's no intercom system. So you have to get used to passing a wall and stopping and looking and reading all the different flyers and pamphlets on the wall. In college, I tell everyone, you're teaching yourself, because that professor will put you to sleep. I had so many days in college where I was just like this. And, you know, you always have someone in the classroom that's always taking those good notes, and that person would charge you $1.50 per page. And I'm like, you know what, let me start taking my own notes, because I don't have $1.50. I got to buy ramen noodles.
Oh, Lord.
So reading is very important. It's very vital.
You know, so you know, just you just mentioned your struggle. You know, eating ramen noodles.
Oh, yes, and I won't eat ramen noodles today.
No. But
You
I
can't
don't
say
think ramen noodles has killed nobody.
You had your fill, huh?
Yeah, I had enough of ramen noodles.
Yeah, you know, I'm like that with watermelon.
I love watermelon.
Yeah, I did too, but I had a job when I was a young man, and I was working for a wholesale fruit and produce company, and a 54-foot trailer would back in, and they open the doors, and watermelons are stacked from the floor to the ceiling. You know, no pallets. They just lay hay on the floor, and they stack the watermelons.
Oh, wow.
Well, there would be 2,500, 3,000 watermelons inside a trailer. You know, and every time you drop one, and it busts open, you had to eat it, because otherwise the flies would you know.
Whoa.
You know, because this is all done in the summer.
Yeah.
So I ate. So I don't think I've had any watermelon since, you know, I was a teenager. Yeah, because I had so much watermelon, it was just like enough. So I checked out. So I haven't had any watermelon in a long time. So I understand, you know, not eating ramen noodles anymore. I understand.
I would be the bubble gum for watermelons. I would have me a watermelon smoothie, watermelon tea, watermelon ice cream.
All the watermelon.
All the watermelon. I love watermelon. It's like my favorite fruit.
Look at like that. I know this weekend we had went to a little festival, and they cut the watermelon in half, and they gutted. I don't want to say gutted it, but they took out the inside, and then they made it into a slushy, and then put it back in the watermelon. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds so good.
Yeah.
They over here getting hungry, y'all.
Yeah, I want a watermelon smoothie right now.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I think when you were talking about reading, where my brain was going to was illiterate. It was people who are illiterate, and as you talking about, all the things that you have to read, and so kind of is a person who is illiterate and they say, okay, I can't read. They probably can read something, but maybe is it just when you're, I'll just say 40 years old, and if you're reading on at kindergarten level, is that considered, as, like?
It's just a lower level of reading, but I can teach reading so easy. I start off with the sight words and build from there. Because, a lot of the sight words, they don't have pictures. That's why they're sight words. So we start with the 100 sight words. From there, you build on words that you use every day and get in the habit of using those words on a daily basis. Not only just using them, but actually putting them up, posting them, That's why when you go into a classroom, you have all these different labels of words on everything. Door, and it's actually spelled out D-O-O-R. And kids like, door! And they can read it, they can see it, and they can spell it, and they're able to relate.
Gotcha. So I think, you think about like your sight words, and I'm like, we know that the sight words, not the common words that adults use sometimes when they, the 4-letter words,
Oh, yeah.
So those are the sight words, but what about the kids when that happens, when the kids, I'm pretty sure y'all have kids who cuss in the classroom.
Blurt out and use curse words.
And you're like, how'd you know?
And they use
them.
They know what they mean, and they use them correctly in a sentence. So what happens then is that we just redirect them and say, hey, that's not a good word.
Look at this sight word right here. Is that one of these sight words?
What other word could you use in place of that?
So Myra, educate me. Sight words, are they like one syllable words? Sight words, you said
they could be one or two. Like, for example, he, that's what one syllable, he. Then you go she, it, and you keep going, and sooner or later you get a 2-syllable word. I can't think of any right now because you put me on the spot. Like your, or, and then you had the kids clap out the syllables, and then they love clapping. They'll be clapping all day.
Right.
I say, sound it out.
Yeah.
Clap it out. They
good.
love it.
And so you've been an educator for how long?
This will be my 30th year.
Wow.
30th year.
And you barely look 30.
I know, right?
Thank you.
I know, right? She's like, black don't crack. No.
Okay.
Unless
you smoke it.
Yeah.
So being an educator for 30 years, did you, because you're doing first graders, have you always done, I don't want to say.
No, I've taught all grades, all subjects. I've taught in youth detention centers. I've taught in group homes. I've taught in the hospital where kids have homebound. I've taught pregnant teen moms where I had to go to them and teach them before, they actually give birth. So I've taught in a lot of different settings, a lot of different populations.
Okay. Did you want to become the principal ever?
Yes. Absolutely.
That's good. So that's something that could be on the horizon.
On the horizon,
Oh,
yes.
good. Yeah, because we have to keep getting educated.
Yes. But, the requirement for a principal is to be in the classroom for 3 years. And, you have to pass your licensure. And for the state of Illinois and Georgia, I have my license. But for Texas, I'm going to take my licensure.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Because like you said, the students are, those are the young stalks that are going to grow up to either be, really strong trees or ones that can't bear their own weight and they end up bending over. So what, and I believe that a teacher is a pivotal part of that process. So what do you think it takes to be a good teacher?
To be a good teacher,
in case anybody out there is looking to get into the profession.
You have to be relatable, not forget that you were ever a kid and how you felt, the things you thought, the things that you did, and then when you're teaching, you pull that out and you make it relatable to the students. We call it text to real world. Whatever you're reading, okay, what's your experience from it? What did you have a similar experience? If so, share it. So when kids feel comfortable, they'll share and they'll talk, and then that's how they learn from one another, and through collaboration and engagement, like what we're doing now.
Collaboration and engagement. There you go.
Yeah.
So
Our good teacher always listens. They always listen. and they're very intuitive. When we say good morning, we're not just saying good morning, but we're looking them in the eye. We're making that eye contact.
Right.
We're also scoping and checking to see if there are any bruises, you know, to see if this child has been abused in any kind of way. We're checking to see if they may be sick. We're checking to see if they may be hungry. Because some of them can come in, you know, hungry and tired and be like, did you sleep last night? Oh, my baby sister kept me up all night. You know, I said, okay, I understand. Did you eat? No. I said, well, you know what? I got some cereal. And then they perk right on up.
Right,
They
yeah.
love, I keep cereal in my class.
Right.
Well, you know, it's very important and relevant that you said that, because I work for a nonprofit, and we teach in schools and things, and one of the things that I really harp on is the success sequence. Have you heard of it? I guess it. You know, if you the success sequence says that if you will do three things, that if you will graduate high school, get a full-time job, and get into a stable living environment. You know, that if you'll do those three things before engaging in sex or getting it off into other things, if you'll do those three things first, that you have a 75%, you are 75% more likely not to live in poverty. If you will do those three things. And so for me, going into the classroom and getting them to realize the importance of that, and getting them to realize to look around and see that there are, because, you know, everybody wants to, we all parade the good examples. You know, see, this is a good example of what you can, this is a good example of who you can be. But I believe we need to see the bad examples too. We need to see what can happen if we won't take certain steps, if we won't do certain things. You know, I like the fact that you attempt to reach them where they are and get them to communicate, because communication is going to keep them from being violent. Communication is going to keep them focused on their goals and their dreams.
Yes.
You know,
School lays that foundation.
Yes.
And a good teacher cares more than just about their academics. It cares about their overall health.
Yes.
Their overall well-being, their interaction with their peers.
Right.
You know, because that's what kindergarten is all about. It's a garden of play where they learn those social skills. And in my classroom, you know, I'm very observant of their interactions with one another. We got to learn how to treat one another. You know, in other cultures, for example, the Middle Eastern cultures like Saudi Arabia, those cultures, they get married, they handpick the husband and the wife at like 5 years old. They connect them and they reconnect them years later and say, this is going to be your wife. You remember you met her when you were 5. But they're taught how to treat the opposite sex. In our culture, we got to get used to treating the opposite sex with respect and talking to them with respect. And I think then we won't see a huge amount of divorce, you know, in our country.
well, for me, the negative side of the Me Too culture is that me is only part of the equation. I talk about all the time Muhammad Ali's, I think it was 1975, I think, his commencement speech at Harvard. You know, he gets up on stage and somebody, you know, because somebody wanted him to you know, just throw off a poem, because that was what he was famous for, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, and all that. You know what I'm saying? So when somebody said, hey, give us a poem, he said, me, we. And I think today that is still the shortest literary poem on record, I think. And it's important because Me Too doesn't teach you that without the we, there is no me. You know, without everybody else, you know, you can attempt to live in a vacuum, but besides being lonely, besides being extremely lonely, you'll
no man is an island.
you'll starve.
Yeah.
We all need each other.
We need each
we
other.
need each other.
So that is one of the crucial elements that I hear you touching on. Is I like the fact that you talked about communication right away, because communication teaches the concept of we. Everyone communicates from their own plateau, but when you attempt to communicate, you are automatically concerned about the we, not just the me.
That's it.
Every
student is important, no matter where they're from, no matter whether they have a knowledge of reading or not, because the whole purpose of my job is to instill that in them, and to make that positive impact for them to want to learn more and have that desire that they want to grow up and be somebody. And it doesn't matter if they want to grow up and be a teacher, a news anchor, a meteorologist, but a lot of our children want to grow up and be entertainers because they see this lavish lifestyle on
that's
TV.
true.
And, they know the lifestyle that they live at home with mom and dad, and they want something more. And that's great to want to aspire to achieve more than what mom and dad has. That's wonderful. But so many of our kids think that they're going to be the next Master P or the next Lil Kim, and education says what you have, what you have in your mind, what no one can steal it from you. No one can take that away from you.
Right.
So we want our students to grow up and be able to make a living, like you said, and one that is good citizen in society, where they following all the rules of the road and the rules of the church and the local government. They're abiding by their law-abiding citizen.
Right.
And they have respect for themselves and they have respect for one another. And they could be an entrepreneur, open up their own business, whether it's a shoe shop, a hair studio, a music studio.
Anything, sky's the limit.
The sky is the limit.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And we promote entrepreneurship here on Speaking the Facts
We
with
sure
Charlie
do.
and JR. My lovely co-host over there is herself an entrepreneur. She has been
Yes.
self-employed for how many years now?
Gosh, Lord, it be Jesus.
So you getting when you
So you
getting
gotta
old when
kinda add it up, right?
you getting old when you know you can't remember. When somebody asks you a
No.
question, it's like, gee, That's a,
25 years. No.
Wow, that's good though. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
So being an established educator, being an entrepreneur, just y'all just talk a little bit about what people should do to, if they aspire to be a teacher or if someone aspires to be an entrepreneur, what kind of internal qualities do they need to have, and maybe even what's a few steps they should take from the beginning,
Well, I think probably the very first thing is kind of set out in your mind that you're going to be resilient, because being a teacher definitely has a lot of stresses and a lot of demands, not just from being from the principals or from the obviously the administration,
parents,
the parent and the parents and the kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot that you have to deal with and still, teach that lesson. And being self-employed, you have to generate business and maintain that business. Maintain or have referral partners. There's a lot of different relationships. And you're not going to please everybody, especially when you're dealing with people, adults, and even children. Yeah. And so you have to be resilient and just know that, those people's opinions, especially if it's not your character, you have to let it roll off of you.
Right.
So that's probably the best advice.
Right. I love entrepreneurs. A lot of teachers are entrepreneurs. They teach and then they go home, then they got a side hustle. They do something on the side.
Yeah.
For me, it was being an author. It was writing. I love reading and writing. And when I watch TV, I have on the subtitles because I have to read. I'm like, what did they say? Because I rewind it until I figure out what they said.
Right.
But that's just me. But going back to being an entrepreneur, you know, you have to invest in yourself. You have to keep on. You can never just plateau. If you plateau, you just dead. You just flatline. And in this world, you want to go up and up and up.
And it takes money to make money.
And
It takes
when
money
you,
to
Yes,
make money.
and there's always going to be mountains to climb, or
Yeah.
there's going to be struggles,
Yeah.
but success is on the other side. And so, and you have to think that, you know, any opportunity that you maybe weren't prepared for, or maybe you were prepared for, but you missed the opportunity, you know, that those things happen, but it doesn't stop you from,
That's right.
you know.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I several books I've read all describe success as when preparedness meets opportunity. You know,
You got to be willing to take it
yeah.
because a lot of times those opportunities don't come back. I can tell you
right.
some opportunities I missed that I thought I was going to get again, didn't get them, and I was like, oh, you know. So what you got to do, you have to reinvent. You have
right.
to keep on reinventing. You got to have a plan A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. If this doesn't work out, I got to do this. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. You know, I believe that's why you have so many years of your life. Because God say, you know what, I put this in you. When you going to use that? Like, oh, I can use that this year. I can use that now. You know, I can do this. You know, I can incorporate that. You know, I tell all of my students, you are a teacher on the first day of school. And they be like, I'm a teacher? I'm like, yes, you're a teacher. Do you have a younger brother or sister? Yeah. I said, did you help him do anything? Did you teach him something? Oh, yeah. I taught my little brother how to tie his shoe. I said, see, you're a teacher.
Yes,
yeah,
I
and
like that.
once you break the ice and get them to thinking like that, then they're able to help one another in the classroom because information is no good if you don't share it.
That's right.
Acknowledging the littlest of things can sometimes inspire and edify a person
Yeah.
to reach great heights.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging the little efforts they make, acknowledging the smallest of accomplishments can make the greatest difference in someone's life. You know, and you had said it a second ago about about just being resilient and having those plans.
Yeah.
Sometime, life is going to, and we talked about that. Was it last week or the week before? We talked about the storms.
Yeah, that was last week. Yeah, the storms.
Yeah, we talked about the storms and how we cannot control when they come into our life. We can't even really control how long they last. Maybe we can. The best that we can do sometime is to minimize the effect of the storm. You know, if I have a good storm break built, if I live on close to the water, but I have a good storm break built, then just the average water is not going to get to my house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's minimizing the effect of the storm.
Right.
But we have to be willing to examine ourselves. We're really good at judging and examining other people. As in this country, we're really good at judging and examining other people. But in order to be successful, you have to constantly examine yourself, because that's where your success lies. It doesn't lie in another person's success. There may be similarities to your path, but
right.
they're not going to be exact. In the end, we each have to carve our own way. We each have to to paddle our own boat. And it is educators like yourself that give us that when
Inspire.
that when teachers are good teachers when they're doing their job, that they'll give people inspiration and hope and the strength to keep pushing for their goals and their dreams.
Right.
How do you get kids excited about goals and dreams? Because it's important for them to have them.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, talk about what it is they like and what it is they want to do, because they look at a teacher like, that's not a dream job. You got to deal with attitudes.
You got to deal with 100 people like me.
Parents. And so they don't look at it like it's a dream job. And I'm like, okay, this may not be your dream job, but it's my dream job. And all our dreams and goals are different.
Right.
And what I do is I teach them how to achieve their goals and laying that foundation for education. First, we got to get you to reading. Then we got to get you to spelling and writing, you know,
Right.
and talking. You know, you got to be able to speak what
Right.
it is that you need and what you want. And you speak those things that be not as though they were.
Yes.
It took me some time to learn what that meant, but I know what it means now.
Yeah.
Your words have power, and you want to bring your dreams into full fruition. And you want to be the God-ordained man or woman that God has created and ordained you to be.
Right.
So with that, I shape and I mold my students, and along with their parents. When they say it takes a village, it actually does,
Oh, it
because
does.
the community is our resource. The community is there to help us as well. We cannot do it alone as teachers. We need the parents, we need the
Right,
community, we need family and friends, and we need that child that has that hunger, that thirst, that they want more, that they want to be somebody. They don't want to settle for less. They don't want to live in lack.
Right.
They want to encourage. I teach them to encourage themselves. So positive self motivation. You know, tell yourself you can do it. Trouble don't last always, like the song. I play some songs in the classroom. I had one little boy, he was always fighting. And he couldn't read or write too good, but when I played this one particular song, he would do his work. He didn't even sing the words right.
So what do you think it was about that song that reached him?
It was called A Sinner's Prayer. And when I would play A Sinner's Prayer, because at the time the projects were up in Chicago, and I could be teaching and I would watch bodies drop from the window, and I would have to tell myself, you know, you got kids in front of you, you got to focus, pay attention, what's at hand, and I got to teach those kids. And I had to play something that will unction their spirit, that will motivate them,
Right.
and get them to see that there's a different way of life. You don't have to be a thug, you don't have to be a gangbanger, you don't have to fight. Girls don't have to twirl on a pole to make
Right.
money. There's other means, there's other avenues, because this was shown to these kids at an early age. So they
Exactly.
already knew
So they
what it
know.
was. The lyrics, the songs they heard at home were different than the lyrics they heard in my classroom.
Right.
So he would get done fighting, or he would get ready to fight, and I'd play that song, A Sinner's Prayer. Then he'd sit down and suck his thumb. He'd do his work.
But that's just a symbol of how powerful music can be.
Yeah.
And
Right.
as parents, we have to realize that the music that we play, you know, we might, you know, the beat, the beat is cool, and you know, the words,
Right.
you know, they cussing, but yeah, it ain't no big deal. Well, it's a big deal to the 5 or the 6-year-old that's watching you dance and groove to these lyrics. You know, it's a really big deal to that little person.
Yeah.
And I know that one of the things, well, Charlie knows too. One of the things, and I did not allow, you know,
Nobody
violent
had the remote when
rap
he had the
music
remote.
in my house. I did not allow my sons to walk around, you know, with their pants down because they had sisters. You know, and I would tell them, you know, you can't, you know, we as a community, we have to get back to standards. You know, there were, you know, when I came up, there were standards in my community. I knew that not only could I not act up in front of my parents, I couldn't act up in front of most of the people in my community because they're, you
They
know,
held you accountable.
Well, yeah, that was
Yeah,
what
they
I'm saying.
held
You
you
know,
accountable.
the root or the etymology of community is common unity.
Yeah.
And if when a neighborhood has common unity, then people 2 streets over could you know whoop me and bring me home and hand me off, and you know, and then they hand off the belt, and it would hardly even stop. It'd be like, you ready? Okay, go.
Right, yeah.
You know, and so but that.
They said back then they didn't have fax machine. They just had word of mouth, and word of mouth
Oh
was
yeah.
quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lady 2 doors down from us named Hattie Anderson, and around the whole city it was telephone, telegraph, Hattie. but
That's funny.
but she made sure. Hattie made sure that everybody in the neighborhood knew what their kids was doing and where they was at.
Right.
You know, and that was as nosy as she was. That was it was a service.
Right, yeah,
You know,
to help out, yeah.
because
for
people
sure.
knew that there was accountability, like you said. They knew that
Right, they
that
knew what you're
people
doing.
were watching, and it's just important for us as a community to get back to that. And I'm very impressed that you take the time to reach them where they are, because part of what I've seen in our schools is just apathy on the part of teachers. Just
It's a lot.
I had a teacher, your brother TJ. I had a teacher where it was him and an Asian kid, and they both somehow or another, they weren't even sitting together, but they had the same answers on the test. And the teacher said my son cheated, and ripped up his test and expelled him. And so what I asked her how she came to the determination that my son cheated. She didn't have an answer. But she had, Kentucky Fried Chicken in both drawers, and so she wasn't paying attention to them. She was paying attention to her food.
Her food.
And the reason that I asked you earlier what you thought it took to be an educator is because we need people that are passionate about whatever it is that you're going to do in life. Like you said, not everybody's going to be a teacher, but whatever you're going to do in life, be passionate about it. I can say that my daughter is very passionate about her career.
Yes.
She attacks it, and poor thing, she's still older right now, so sleepy. She's like, is it time?
I know, like, what did you do?
It's almost time. But
I was up early.
yeah.
So question, so how would people get in contact with you or be able to buy a book or support you?
Oh, yes, they can go on studentpublishing.com. They can put in the title of the book, Kids Love Pets. And that's a common topic because a lot of the kids have pets. I have one little girl in the book, that did not have a pet, but she wrote about her doll. I thought that was so sweet.
yeah.
And she brought her doll for show and tell,
Mind
and
if
the
I look at
doll
that?
ended up resembling her. I'm like, wow.
wow.
And so you put in this pen. The pen is 847-5929. And this book will pop up, and all the proceeds go to the school. So it will help the principal meet the needs of the school.
Excellent.
and just how giving and magnanimous is that you're allowing the proceeds to go to the school.
It goes to the school. You know, for Thanksgiving, we do a basket, and we donate it to the families of the school. Kids that can go home now and have a Thanksgiving meal with their family. They don't have to beg, borrow, or they don't have to go over to somebody else's house. They can stay right at home and eat at their own table with their family.
Right.
I want y'all to notice how empathic and caring this lady is about about teaching and about the
Yeah.
Yeah,
effects
she's a
that
sweetheart.
teaching has
Thank
on
you.
young people, because that's all the violence that we see in our society is a result of people just pushing young people through the system, just get through, and even moving people up in grades just so the schools, which they started so the schools can get tax money. They started pushing people forward.
That's true.
Back in my day, but back in my day, you could fail. There was a guy in my sister's class that graduated at 21.
Oh my gosh! Oh.
Oh, yeah,
But
I
it
mean,
also does something to their
High
intellect. It
school?
does something to them emotionally. So the school stopped that level of exercise. They stopped that, and they started to meet the needs of the student. Maybe the student can't hear, so what we do is we will refer them for hearing, to get a hearing test. Maybe the kid is having trouble seeing, so we refer them for vision testing. Maybe they have dyslexia, so once again, we refer them to get them the help that they need so that they can be successful, so that it will prevent failure and prevent discouragement and prevent them from not going on to the another grade, and to prevent them from not prevent them from not achieving and going to the next grade level, and prevent them from self-doubt. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
And because the whole thing is that we want to meet your need. Let's get you the help and resources that you need,
Right.
so that you can achieve, and so that you can go on and do what it is you're supposed to do in this life.
That's right. Amen.
Amen. We
We all
got
have a journey. We got a pathway. So it is.
Yeah, it is time, but I want to thank you for what you do, first of all,
Yeah.
because
Oh, yes.
and how passionate you are
Yes.
about doing it.
We can tell you love your job.
Yeah, I
yes.
do. I do.
You know.
I love my
At the
job.
best grade,
I'm so
first grade?
happy. Yeah, first grade. I'm so happy when I go to work. It's
Are
a joy.
are y'all hearing this?
Yes.
Say that again.
I'm so happy when I go to work. It's
I
a joy.
I love that.
My kids, this is one of the dresses that I wear when I go to school, and my kids say, "Did somebody draw that?" And I'm like, "No, I just like colors."
Right. I love it.
I love colors. I may have on some floral. I just love designs, and I like things that sometimes that other people wouldn't wear,
Different
because
patterns,
I consider myself to be unique. I'm very eclectic like that.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Well, thank you for your passion, because that's going to save young children. Young children in our communities are going to grow up to be responsible, educated people because of the work that you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yes.
having me.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome.
We don't have to go home, but the clock on the wall says we got to get the out of here. So
That's
so,
right. And you gotta love
we-
yourself so you can
we
love
will
somebody
be
else.
back next week.
That's right.
All right.
Same facts
Yay.
time, same facts.
And in my classroom,
channel.
we would give a round of applause.
And around,
So we're gonna give a round of applause.
Yes,
In fact, we're
thank
gonna give one over here.
All right.
So
We do high fives too.
you do high
That's
fives.
right.
Yeah.
So thank you, Myra, for coming on the show. Thank you for pouring your love and encouragement into young people.
Yes,
Because our community needs that. We will be back next week. Like I said, same facts time, same facts channel. Until then, as Charlie said, love yourself. Because if you do, it's going to be easier to love somebody else.
That's it.
See y'all next week.
Yes.
Take care.
Bye, you guys.
Hey, this is Charlie,
This is JR.
host of Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR, broadcasting live each week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. from Fishbowl Studios.